Welcome students. This is Social Science class 9th Standard Political Science Chapter 1 Our Constitution. This is 5th video. In the last videos we have discussed about the meaning of Constitution, the Constituent Assembly of Constitution, the Constitution Drafting Committee and framing of the Constitution, the preamble to the Constitution, the salient features of the Constitution, the fundamental rights. Today, let us discuss about fundamental duties and directive principles of state policy in this lesson. If you have not watched the previous video, please check in the playlist. Let us continue the lesson with fundamental duties. So in our last video, we had discussed about fundamental rights. There are 6 important fundamental rights which are essential to follow in our constitution. So today, let us continue with the fundamental duties. Rights and duties are the two faces of the same coin. So we have to follow rights and duties also very essential. Rights without duties have no value or significance. So, in our constitution, 10 fundamental duties were included in 4th chapter, A part. Article 51A with the 42nd amendment to the constitution, with the 86th amendment in 2002, there are now 11 fundamental duties. So earlier, we are following 10 fundamental duties. So now, according to the new amendment of 2002, we are following 11 fundamental duties. So let us go detail about all these 11 fundamental duties of our. They are as follows. 1. We have to respect the Constitution, national flag and national anthem. So this is the first duty of a citizen. Second one, to follow the noble ideals that inspired our national struggle for freedom. So we have to follow the ideals whatever the important national leaders have followed. Third one, to protect the integrity of India. So for the sake of integrity, we have to work. Fourth one, to defend the motherland when called upon to do so. So any emergency is there. So in that time, every citizen must be ready to defend for the sake of country, motherland. Fifth point, to promote the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India and disown those rituals that go against the dignity of women. So we have to give prominence to equal friendly attitude towards everyone, brotherhood, and we have to look after the dignity of women. Sixth one, to preserve our rich heritage. So whatever the important resources are there, everything we have to preserve it. Seventh one, to protect and develop environment including forest, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and show compassion to animals also. We have to protect our environment, forest, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and compassion to animals also. Eighth one, develop the scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry. So don't have the feeling of old beliefs, superstitious belief. You should follow the scientific temper and you must have a spirit of inquiry. Then you can establish new lifestyle. Ninth one, to safeguard public property and to abstain from violence. So whatever the important public property is there, so whether it is roads, whether it is office, whether it is any buildings or temples, everything we have to safeguard and we should not support any important violence activities. 10th one, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activities. 11th one, the parents and the guardians should provide an opportunity for education to their children from the age of 6 to 14 years. So this is also one of the important fundamental duty of our parents or the guardians to provide equal education to all their children. So these are the important 11 fundamental duties which is very essential to become a citizen of our country. Unlike fundamental rights, there is no protection from a court of law with regard to our duties. However, there will be a punishment under the law for the violate their duties. So, if you violated any of the important duties means definitely you will get punishment. So, we have to respect and we have to follow our duties. Let us discuss about the Directive Principles of State Policy with an aim to establish a welfare state. So, welfare state means providing all facilities for our state. Certain important directive principles we have to follow. State policy has been incorporated in the Constitution under the fourth part from 36 to 51 article. So, according to 36 to 51 articles, we are incorporated in the Constitution certain important directive principles. These principles serve as a guideline to the state. So, it will give guidelines for the improvement of the state. The framers of our Constitution were inspired by the Irish Constitution to include such type of directive principles. So, we are inspired by the Irish Constitution and we have involved certain important principles. So, these directive principles are in the form of directions to the central and state governments. So, it will give directions for the improvement of central government and state government. Through these principles, the government intends to provide economic improvements, social improvements, political justice to its citizens. So, whatever economic development, social development, political justice we have to follow and we have to involve to our citizens means the government will follow from these important principles. But these principles are based on ethics. So, if the governments, central or state, do not implement them, they cannot be questioned in a court of law. So, it is their wish. If they wanted to involve, they can implement or they can deny. So, they cannot question. So, these principles are socialist principles and these principles also liberal and have been based on Gandhian ideals. Any individual or party that comes to power has to rule keeping these principles as guide. Hence, these directives called principles. So, for individual development or for party development, it has the power to rule and it has to follow these type of principles as guides. So, like this, our directive principles we are following today in our Constitution. So, let us go detail about our directive principles of state policy. First important directive principle is to provide adequate means of livelihood to all citizens. So, everyone must get basic facilities. So, that has to be looked after under directive principles of the state people. Second one, to prevent community wealth and resources from becoming private property of a few people. It has to prevent the community wealth and resources. Suppose it is becoming a private property of a few people. So, every people must get facilities. That is its intention. Third one, to provide equal pay for equal work to both men and women and to protect labor welfare. So, equal pay they have to fix to the workers. Suppose if he is a man or a female, and laborers' welfare is the main important motto of directive principles. Fourth important issue is it wanted to provide public assistance to those who are old, sick, weak or helpless. So, if you are old or sick or weak or helpless, for their assistant purpose, this has to take certain measures. That is the main motto of Directive Principles. Fifth one, it wanted to implement uniform civil code throughout the country. So, throughout the country, uniform civil code rules should be equivalent to all the important states. That is the main important issue. So, after introducing uniform civil code, next attention it has provided to opportunities for the development of health, preschool education to all children below 6 years. So, it has to provide facilities for the improvement of the health and preschool education for the children below 6 years. So, there are different important Anganawadis and other important facilities they have involved, and they will give education for the below income workers and their children. They will give educational facilities. Seventh one, to protect historical monuments and maintain places of historical interest. So, whichever the important historical monuments are there in and around the country, it is the essential duty to protect these important monuments. Eighth one, to separate the executive from the judiciary, because executive function is different, judiciary function is different. So, it will not involve both together. So, executive we have to separate from judiciary. Judiciary is an independent organ of the government. Ninth one, to protect international peace and to respect international law. International peace and security, respect international law is also very essential. It has to look after that also. Any internal, external problems when it comes means we have to maintain peace and respect that law also. 10th one, to establish Grama Panchayat. So, smallest unit of administration is Grama Panchayat. So, every important village we have to make our own important Panchayat heads, and they were having their own functions and they have to look after their small unit of administration. 11th one, encourage rural and cottage industries. So, in the cities and towns we will see the modernization, industries, roads, etc. So, in the rural areas, they have to make small scale industries or household industries, also called as cottage industries, and improve the silk production, cottage and pottery making, all the types of industries they have to involve in it. 12th one, to organize and develop agriculture and animal husbandry modern lines. So, the main important occupation of the rural people is agriculture. Different important land reforms they have to involve, and animal rearing also become one of the important occupation, and they have to use modern facilities for collection of milk or for the sake of cutting of different plants, then seedlings, sprinkling the type of water, sprinkler irrigation, drip irrigation, so canal irrigation, all the types they have to adopt in the modern facilities in their jobs. 13th one, to ensure prohibition of liquor. So, we have to stop this liquor as far as possible, because it will spoil the progress of the country. But still, some of the people are involved in it, but our government is trying its best to ensure the prohibition of liquor as far as possible. That is the 13th important Directive Principles of State Policy. 14th one, to ensure the development of farming based on scientific methods. So, in the rural areas, agriculture is one of the important methods where they are following. So, according to the modernization, they have to use the tillers, cutters and tractors for the sake of improvement of farming, definitely they can make a great production and they can get more crops. So for this purpose, they have to take help, and government should make certain developmental facilities to the farmers. So these are the 14 directive principles. You have to know about it. What is the important aim? Let us discuss now. The aim of directive principles is to achieve social welfare, while fundamental rights are related to an individual, whereas the directive principles of the state policies are related to a whole community. So, the central government and state government are making several important attempts to implement all the principles. So, these principles aim at holistic development in India. So, they are the indicators of holistic development of India. So, directive principles, when they are fulfilled, means then we can make a fast new improvements, new developments in India. Definitely there is a symbol of improvement of our country. Now I will review these points whatever we have discussed today. We started discussing about fundamental duties. First important fundamental duty we have discussed is to respect the constitution, national flag and national anthem. Second point, to follow the noble ideals that inspired our national struggle for freedom. Third important duty is to protect the integrity of India. Fourth one, to defend the motherland when called to do so. Fifth one, to promote the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India. Sixth one, to preserve our rich heritage. Seventh, to protect and develop environment including forest, lakes, rivers and wildlife. Eighth one, to develop the scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry. Ninth one, to safeguard public property to obtain from violence. 10th one, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activities. 11th fundamental duty is the parents or the guardians should provide an opportunity for education to their children from the age of 6 to 14 years. So these are the 11 important fundamental duties you have to know under Constitution. The next point we have discussed is the directive principles of state policy. Under that, first one, to provide adequate means of livelihood to all citizens. Second, to prevent the community wealth and resources from becoming the private property of a few people. Third one, to provide equal pay for equal work to both men and women and to protect labor welfare. Fourth one, to provide public assistance to those who are old, sick, weak or helpless. Fifth one, to implement uniform civil code throughout the country. Sixth one, to provide opportunity for the development of health, preschool education to all children below 6 years. Seventh one, to protect historical monuments and maintain places of historical interest. Eighth one, to separate the executive from the judiciary. Ninth one, to protect international peace and to respect international law. 10th one, to establish Grama Panchayat. 11th one, to encourage rural and cottage industries. 12th one, to organize and develop agriculture and animal husbandry on modern lines. 13th one, to ensure prohibition of liquor. 14th one, to ensure development of farming based on scientific methods. Like this, for the welfare state, we have to follow these type of directive principles of state policy. So today, we have discussed about fundamental duties and directive principles of state policy. So with this point, we are concluding the informations about our Constitution lesson. Next of my video, I will discuss about question and answers about our Constitution lesson. Thank you, children.